All right. There we go. So, so I inherited. I got forced into a mission trip. I didn't really want to go, but I thought I'm going to take my family and see what this is like. So we piled all these high school kids in vans and we went to Mexico. And when we went to Mexico, I remember one of the high school girls in the group goes, "Oh my gosh, the signs are in Spanish here." And I looked at her and I went, "Wow, that's amazing, that you would even be surprised that it's in Spanish." And I could not speak any Spanish. Uno, dos, tres, hola, that's it. That was the extent of my Spanish. And we get there, and it was with Azusa Pacific's Mexico outreach. And we lived in this big tent city, and it was crazy. Any of you done that? Nope, nope. With Azusa Pacific? Oh, but you did a Mexico trip. Okay. All right, I'll get to that in a minute. So at the end of the trip, I saw this happen in the students' lives I took. It was like, oh my gosh, I think they've grown more in 1 week down here, maybe 5 or 6 days. I think they've grown more in that 1 week than they have in a year of sitting in a Bible class or a Sunday school class or whatever, because it was such a new experience for them to go to another culture, to have this language barrier. And my kids were 2, 4, 6, and 8. Who do we appreciate? And my 3 little boys were like the little guy, 2. He played in the dirt the whole time, and he had a snot nose going, so he had this dirt snot thing coming the whole time. The 4-year-old and 6-year-old were playing marbles with these little boys in Mexico. And in Mexico, when you play marbles, if you lose your marbles, right? So they kept coming back to me for more pesos to go buy more marbles. And then my daughter, she was 8. She just was taking all this in, just soaking all this vacation Bible school in, right? And when the trip was all done, it was amazing. And I thought, wow, Lord, what do you want me to do with this? And I came back home, and I realized what an impact it made upon my family, upon me, upon my family. And on the last day, when Vacation Bible School, they ask anybody that wants to come forward and give their life to Christ. My daughter goes forward to give her life to Christ. I'm going, man, this is amazing. All right. How many of you have done a short-term mission trip similar to something like that? Okay. And what was positive about it? What impressed you about that trip? Yeah.
I went to the Philippines, and the main thing was there was a guy there, one of the pastors who just lost his life before we got there.
Mm.
And even through that, the entire time he was like smiling and trying to stay happy and being like positive for all the students.
Yeah.
But like we could obviously tell he was still struggling. And so towards the end of the week, or one of the weeks that we all went and prayed with him, and he, in his best English he could, he like thanked all of us, and it was a really cool experience just for the.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. AJ.
I went to Mexico, and I got to go to the house for a guy, and to see the smile on his face when we handed him the keys was something I can't even describe.
Mm-hmm.
It brought so much joy to my heart
Mm-hmm.
to see that and be able to provide something for him.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Good illustration. Yeah.
I went to Mexico as well. It was over March. We went to, as a group, our church made sandwiches, like little brown bags of sandwiches and drinks. And we went to the dumps, and just like the experience of going, and with such little that we had, just giving it to people, the smiles that were on their face, just from the small things. It was an eye opener of just like how much we have here, and we still don't think we have enough. So just that experience was really eye-opening to me.
All right. Good illustration. Thank you. Yeah, is that?
I also went to Mexico 3 different times when I was in middle school. 2 of them were to deliver Christmas presents to a church for the kids. There was a house building trip, and same as Riley, it was just eye-opening to see how much we take for granted and how much little people can have, and how they can be so grateful for.
Yeah, so grateful. and so happy. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how we are kind of reserved in that area, right? We don't get on a public transportation and just start preaching in our country. It's not the same. Okay? All right. Now, anybody else? Okay. So after doing this year after year, I was doing this at Emmanuel, a high school where these girls went. We would take trips of 40 and 50 every spring break to Mexico, right? And we would we'd build a couple houses, and we would also do a vacation Bible school. And at the end of the week, we would all get together and circle and pray for the family that we gave the house away to, or two houses. Sometimes we built two. And also pray for the new believers, the children that came forward. Um, and my students were crying. I mean, the girls are like, "Oh, I just want to live here the rest of my life." They've only been there 5 days. They have no idea what it'd be like to live there. I just want to live here the rest of my life, and they're loving it, right? And then we'd get in our van and drive back on I-5 to where we live in Reedley, and then my wife would say, "Do you think we did any damage?" And I'd go, "Damage? Wow, Janice, what are you talking about?" She goes, I said, no, we didn't do damage. They said that was the best week of their life. They love it. It's their favorite week of the year. And she's smarter than me. Okay, just tell you right now. She goes, Dave, we brought in 7 vans full of high school kids. We brought 2 trailers full of stuff. We gave away houses. We brought tons of clothes and gave it away. We brought tons of food and gave it away. We had piñatas full of candy and had all these piñatas on the last day of the carnival. We gave it away. We gave. She goes, "Do you think we did any damage?" And I said, "I don't know, but I know it was good for us. But what did we actually do there?" So now I'm flipping the boat here in case you didn't notice that. I just flipped to how can sometimes a short-term trip be, I don't know, sketchy? We'll say sketchy. How could a short-term missions trip be, could it be a problem sometimes? Could it be something we got to be careful of? What do you think? Some of you wise minds out there, give me some help. Yeah.
We were talking about it in our missions class. The thing about short-term mission trips is that sometimes you can create connections with these people who live there, and then you just up and go. They don't have those connections anymore, and they feel lost sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Good insight. A sense of loss. One thing that's changed over the years is you probably they're probably on Facebook. Little kids in rural little areas that are very poor. It's different. There's a lot of cell phones. Yeah.
You expect results too quick. You see something like Vacation Bible School, people come and they give their life to Christ. You're like, "Oh, this is so great. This is so fun. This is how missions is every week. I should go do it for full time." You go full time. You're like, "Oh, I got one person in the past 2 years," and you just get discouraged. I think
Okay. A missed expectation. Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's kind of like the human mountaintop experience where the campers come up, except this time we were going down to meet them, and then every time I came out from Hume, I would go down and be fine for 3 days, and I'd be like living a good life, and then it would slowly decrease, and I would just feel even worse than I even started off.
Interesting. Okay. Very good insight. You know, after Jesus had a mountaintop experience, you know what was next? What happened? After the mountaintop transfiguration? He went to a valley. And he met his disciples, and they couldn't even pray this evil spirit out of this boy. And he just goes, "Oh, man, bring the boy to me." You know, it was like after there's a mountaintop, there's usually a valley. Yeah. Back in the back, there was someone. Yeah. You can create dependency if you're giving all this stuff away. And when you give things away, they don't have value. You know that? If you give it away, don't have value. Interestingly enough, if you gave me a big bag of clothes to take to the Dominican Republic, I'd give them down to the Dominican Republic and we'd sell them. We would sell your clothes you're giving away. We would sell them for just a little bit. But we'd sell them because then what they're buying has value. And they can have dignity because they bought it. You know, it's important to give people dignity and to have value. Can be a pretty big problem when you're just giving stuff away all the time. Okay, so you guys, great insights, great insights. All right, now I'm going to flip the switch here and take you to. I told you my experience. I gave you the good of short-term trips, also the challenge in short-term trips. And I found out that now I know, I didn't at the time, that professors at Christian universities write books on how bad short-term missions are. And I've ran into some of them. And I love talking to them. We work, right now, Students International works with 2 universities that categorically say, we are not going to do any short-term missions, but they send teams with us. So when I go there and talk to them, I make sure I don't use the word missions. That's like, don't use missions because they don't like that word missions. Azusa Pacific's one of them, and they'll call them action teams or go teams or vision teams. And the other one is Wheaton College in Chicago. Both of them are schools that are pretty down on traditional short-term missions. Okay? So that being said, I am just cruising along, teaching it a manual. Like I said, Bible, football, mission trips, chaplain, having a great time. And then a guy comes along and says, hey, Dave, you ever thought of doing a mission trip differently? I went, differently? Like what? He goes, well, probably on your short-term trips, you go build a house or you go work with children and do a VBS. I mean, he nailed it, right? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, that's pretty much 95%, 99% of all short-term missions. He says, but what if you could have a trip very different? What if you could do a trip where, because not all of your students are going to go into building, or not all of them are going to go into Christian ministry, children's ministry. Some might want to be a doctor or a nurse. What if you could have those that are interested in medicine go work alongside a doctor on a short-term trip? And someone else who's entrepreneurial, they could work at making microloans with women doing startup projects that are very, very poor, but with a loan, they could start a business. What about someone who might want to go into physical therapy? They could work alongside a physical therapist. And right away, he was blowing my box up of short-term missions. I'm like, wait a minute. You just named 5, 6 things. How do you do that on a short-term mission trip? And he says, well, I'm glad you asked. He said, and he's the one who founded Students International. It wasn't me. He said, the organization that we've started is called Students International, and we have a full-time staff in every one of those areas doing that work year-round. And I went, oh, man, that makes sense. It's like I see some of your heads nodding. That makes sense. And when I get a chance to share with youth pastors that are looking for another alternative, they almost always have the same look. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And the thing that I was missing in the Mexico trips was I had no boots on the ground. I'd roll into town, put on this huge carnival and a whole week of tons of stuff. We'd go back home. I would come back the next year, spring break, with a whole new group because so many students wanted to go from our school. We only took seniors. And so the little kids are going, David, David, Don David, ¿dónde está Michelle? Michelle está en la universidad ahora. Because they wanted to see Michelle that was there last year. The broken relationships, right? The missed. And I'm bringing new students every year. And so when this guy told me that, he goes, I'm going to try that. Yeah, I want to try that. He didn't tell me he just started. And I took the second team ever with Students International to Guatemala with Emmanuel students. But when I did, it was just like he said. It was like people had a crazy different experience. Crazy different. Some of you girls are going to be playing volleyball every day as a tool to build relationships with young gals. Some of you boys, your arm's going to fall off because you're throwing a baseball so much in one day. Others of you are going to work with our doctor and our nurse in how to integrate medicine and ministry. And you'll know that our doctor is a worship leader. And he starts every day with everybody in the waiting room, waiting to be seen by the doctor with worship songs. And others are going to be working with little kids, incredible little kids in our preschool. That's what you have ahead of you, okay? So I'm going to show you a 2-minute video of Students International, and then we're going to get Dallas off to bed. Dallas, I'm sorry. I was going to make that a little shorter for you. Dallas flew all night last night, got in at 2 a.m., and he's going to show a video if we can up here. And then I'm going to come right back and have him show a second video so he can go to bed. What if students on a short-term trip could work alongside full-time missionaries and build eternal community? Hi, my name is Dave Hansen, and I'm CEO of Students International. Our vision is to see both the students on the short-term trip and the people of the community transformed into the likeness of Christ and to discover what God has called them to do. We do this through long-term, ongoing community development in Costa Rica, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and the Dominican Republic, in dozens of ministry sites staffed by our full-time missionaries and the short-term participants that come with us throughout the year.
As a group leader, one of the things that really stands out to me about Students International is just how intentional they are, from the ministry they do down to the details of getting our groups down there. They take care of all the details. So for me, I'm able to bring my group and not worry about it and get to be a part of the ministry that happens and watch my students' lives be changed.
It just really changed my life. And last time I was here, God showed me that He wants to use me in special needs. So I'm in school right now to become a special needs teacher.
I think the thing that impacted me most would be the relationships that I've felt with like my leaders and the people just in our site in general. I've gotten to hear so many, just testimonies of people where they have seen God just revolutionize and change their life.
I am so excited about Students International, and I would like to invite you to bring a team. Let me intro the other one. Hey, we need to redo it. That's 10 years old. So There's a mask on there. What's this? Oh, okay. All right. Haven't had good luck with those tonight. So one of the things that we do at Students International is we go, I want you guys to think of going not to help the poor. Most short-term missions is let's go help the poor. I don't dig that. Going and helping the poor sounds like we're the great saviors. We're the white hope. We're the ones that got the resources. Let's go help the poor. I would rather say, let's go work alongside the poor. Because, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit when Dallas goes off to sleep, but I want to talk to you about the poor. And I want to talk to you about the special place in Jesus' heart that he had for the poor. He had a special place in his heart for the poor. What a privilege to go to the DR and to find out what is it that the poor had such a special place in Jesus' heart. What is it? What is it? Do you know that Jesus elevated the poor? And you know what he said to the rich? A lot of warnings. He warned the rich. And he actually said something that's so powerful. He said, it's harder to get to heaven if you're rich. That's a pretty big statement. Harder to get to heaven. I got news for you. We're all in this room. We're the rich. I don't care how poor you think you are right now. We are the rich. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Before I do, there's one more video I want to show you because this is kind of cool. It's a new program that we started a few years back, but it's growing in terms of doing college, doing all college with us. It's called Global Bridge. And it's where you come with us, similar to the length of time of being with Joshua, but you do all your gen ed in the DR. And you could do 1 year and come back, and those units will transfer to the school you go to. You could do 2 years and get an AA, come back to the school you want to get your major in. You could do 3 years or 4 years and get a full degree. And each year we move you to a different country or a different base. So right now, the farthest along we are is our Global Bridge 3, and that's Lydia, and she's in Guatemala. But she went from DR Santiago to DR Jarabacoa to Guatemala. And right now there's 5 students. I think next year we plan to have about 10 students in Global Bridge 1. A couple of you know Bella? Bella Davila, you know Bella. And that's the only one you probably know from Emmanuel, but she's there in Global Bridge 1. So I'm going to show you an even shorter video on Global Bridge, and then you guys, anybody interested, could talk to me tomorrow about it if you have any questions. Okay, Global Bridge.
The Global Bridge is a unique program that gives you an opportunity to travel the world, serve others, and further explore God's calling in your life without getting off track in your path to college and career. You'll spend 9 months living in the Dominican Republic, a Caribbean island filled with amazing landscapes and colorful people. Part of the time, you'll live in Jarabacoa, a mountainous community about an hour from the north coast. There you'll live with host families and learn Spanish, studying in small groups with experienced language instructors. For most of your stay, you will live and minister in the community of Cienfuegos, which is just outside of Santiago, the second largest city in the Dominican Republic. Here you will serve alongside Students International's full-time doctors, teachers, social workers, and other ministry professionals, assisting with projects that further their ministry in the community. It will provide you with a chance to make a real difference in the lives of others while you explore your own vocational interests and develop your ministry and leadership skills. On the weekends, there's plenty of opportunities for adventure with excursions that include visits to the colonial city of Santo Domingo, the waterfalls of Puerto Plata, the Caribbean beaches, and more. You'll hike, camp, snorkel, whitewater raft, and explore the region's rich history. Students International's Global Bridge staff is there to serve you throughout your experience. They provide mentoring and discipleship training that is specifically designed to help you grow in your faith, learn more about your unique gifts and calling, and develop the skills you need to become the person God wants you to be. While on the program, you'll also earn college credit, taking classes through a fully accredited Christian college. You have the option to participate for 1 year, earning up to 30 credits, or you can participate Global Bridge is more than a gap year program. It's a bridge to your future.
So I show that to you just to kind of spark your interest. Sorry if it sounds a little bit like a commercial, but it is a pretty cool program. And we had one girl do 2 years and then transfer to Pepperdine University. Pepperdine took all her units. So it's a legit deal. If you want to talk to me more about that, you can do that. Okay, one of the things that in Students International, one thing that's very important to understand is that our staff see their ministry as twofold. One of them is they have a passion to see a life transformed with the children or the adults in the country where they're at. So like in Dominican Republic, for you guys, they have a passion. 70% of our staff are from the DR. 30% are North Americans. Actually, 75% are Dominicans. And their passion is to see lives transformed. And they have that passion in the area of their expertise, whether it be sports or microfinance or education or special ed, dentistry, medicine, all these different areas, right? The other half of their focus is you guys. When you come, they're just as passionate about seeing you be touched with the Holy Spirit while you're there as much as they are the people that are in front of them year round. It's a dual focus, okay? And that's important to understand. So what I want to shift a little bit here to say, what is, when I talked about the poor a little bit ago, and I referred to the poor, who are the poor? What does the Bible say about the poor? One of the things that is interesting to me is God speaks specifically to the poor. In the Gospel of Luke, in the Sermon on the Plain, Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours will be the kingdom of God." In James chapter 2, it says, "Listen, my dear children, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him?" And in Isaiah 58, the writer talks about the fast of God, and it says, is this not the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loosen the chains of injustice, to untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? If you do, then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, "Here I am." You know, I wrestle with the idea of the wealth that we have. I have to tell you, I wrestle with that. I say, Lord, why was I born where I was born? Why do I live in a society that lives on $100 a day a person? That's the average for us. If you take all the incomes and divide them all up, it's $100 a day. Why was I born in that? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Especially when you see children that are very poor, right? I know one time I heard a guy speak, and he said this phrase. He said, tonight, this was years ago, he said, tonight, 25,000 children are going to die in this world. Tonight, 25,000 children are going to die in this world because of hunger and hunger-related diseases. And you all out there, you don't give a, and then he said, S-H-I-T. But he didn't spell He even emphasized it. This was to 2,000 church people in Fresno that were pretty conservative. This person was never asked back to speak. Okay? But here's what he said next. He said, here's the sad thing, is that you guys are more concerned that I said that word than 25,000 kids are going to die tonight. And it was just like he took this knife and stabbed it in me. Because I'm thinking, he said, what? It was like a big church service, worship and rally and all. And then he said that. And then he got me because I was more concerned that he said that word. I'm going, how does he get away with doing that? What does he think? Who does he think he is? He said, and then he says that, hey, you're more concerned I said the word than 25,000 kids are going to die tonight. How would you have responded if you had heard that? The guy's still out there. But he doesn't say S-H-I-T, he says F-U-C-K. Times have changed. Right? He still says it to church people because he needs to shake them a little bit, right? Okay, well, I was shaken, and I did some research just recently here, and I found out it was substantiated, what I knew, or what I was hearing, is that we're making progress in world poverty. And the good news is it's not 25,000 kids. The bad news is it's between 10 and 15,000 kids. Right now, in your lifetime, right now, 10 to 15,000 kids are going to die tonight because of hunger or hunger-related diseases. And what do we do about it? Well, what can I do, right? What could you do? One person I talked to tonight was Brooke. Right, Brooke? Yeah. Who said, you have a heart for the poor in Thailand, right? What if you drew a big circle like this and you said, here's the world's needs. There's a lot of them. And over here are my interests. This is what I love to do. And say, is there any place where the two circles are doing this? And there's a center. What could God be calling you to do? You know the question. You hate it. What are you going to do after Joshua? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You're going to get a job? You're going to go to college? What are you going to do? And you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I saw one of you, I'm just learning your names, but I saw Malia today go, Jen, where are you, Jen? And Malia, where are you, Malia? Oh, right there. Did I see you today do that, right? Yeah. What am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with my life? Okay. Well, you know what? There's a lot of great things you can do with your life that have an impact in the world. It doesn't mean you have to go. Don't be afraid that God's going to send you to Africa. But if God does send you to Africa, that's going to be the best place for you. I guarantee you. You will love it. How many of you, anybody been to Africa in here? All right. You know, it's amazing. When I went to Africa for the first time, I went, oh my gosh, now I know why people want to go to Africa. Oh, I saw things. I saw children that in the Eastern Congo that had experienced the worst. It was the rape capital of the world for about 5 years. I saw girls that were raped and then mutilated, ears cut off, and things that are gross, right? And they just smile, and they just hug you, and they just want to praise Jesus. I'm going, wow, do I have a lot to learn? I think I got a problem? Are you kidding me? Right? So what is God going to do with you? Right? We're going to talk about. I'm excited to talk about that. All right. I'll just briefly say this. And if you go to the World Bank and you say, what's the definition of poor? Extreme poverty is people that live on $2 a day or less. Some of you will be in sites in the DR where some of the kids are living on $2 a day or less. Some of our sites in Santiago, where we do Global Bridge, kids are living on $1 a day or less. Some kids live on a dump that we're ministering to. And then that's extreme poverty. Then there's the poor, which live on $2 to $10 a day. And then there's us that live on $100 a day on the average. And I said earlier, you guys are filthy rich in the world's economy. You're in the top 1%. And you're going, Dave, you don't know me. I am poor. I had to borrow money to come up here. People are donating money so I can be here. Well, let me ask you this. Could you leave Joshua and go work at In-N-Out? Yeah, because you guys are the people In-N-Out's looking for. They're looking for the cream of the crop with good attitudes that can smile all the time. In-N-Out starts about 22 to 24 an hour. McDonald's pays 20. Starbucks pays 20 an hour. I'm not advocating for you to have a career at In-N-Out or Starbucks. I'm saying you have wealth because of where you live, because of where you're seated right now, because you were born in the United States. You have an incredible amount of wealth. And if you make more than $40,000 a year, $40,000 to $50,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of the world. The world. I talked to a gal today at Starbucks. I like Starbucks. And she is the manager of Reedley Starbucks, the new one out there by St. Mart, right? And she said she was a high school graduate from Selma, and she 4 years later is managing Starbucks. A manager of a Starbucks, I think, is making about $100,000. Yeah. I could be wrong in that, but I know a manager of a lot of fast foods are making six figures. Okay, there's opportunities out there to make money, but that may not be what God has called you to do. What God maybe has called you to do is to help people who are less fortunate. I have an idea of what God's called each one of you to do. It's a pretty good idea. It's from a verse in the Old Testament. You guys know it. To do justice. What comes next? To love mercy and to walk humbly. He has called you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, but to do justice, but to love mercy and to walk humbly. That's God's calling for each one of you. To do justice. What is doing justice? Justice is when you see something that is not right. It is not fair. You can do something about it. You know, some of you I have friends that went into law just to do justice, just to help people that are disadvantaged, just to help people who are on the short end of got the short end of the stick. It could be in our society. It could be the International Justice Mission. I have a friend of mine that went to work for the International Justice Mission, and he's working in the Philippines because there's so much sex trafficking in the Philippines. And he said, our whole goal in the International Justice Mission is just to make the laws known that the Philippines already has. Almost every country in our world has laws against sex trafficking. So they're just out there saying, making that known. And that's what slows it down. Okay? Just trying to activate the laws that are already in place. What about loving mercy? Loving mercy. Mother Teresa said there's nothing that is more that she could do that was more special than giving someone that love and care in their dying moments. In their dying moments. That's what really jazzed her up. She got a Nobel Peace Prize for that, right? They gave her a check for $750,000. She goes, I don't want that. I'm doing what God's called me to do. I love it. I met a guy one time named Tim. Tim was having a struggle with his wife and kids, and he went to go work alongside Mother Teresa. And he told me that when he was working alongside Mother Teresa in Calcutta, at the home for the dying, he said God met him there. He was so impacted. He was an extremely wealthy guy. He was so impacted after being there 6 months. And when he left, he wrote a check for $1 million to Mother Teresa. And he says, here, I want this to go to your work. She took that check and she went, whoosh, whoosh. I don't want your money. She said, Tim, go back and love your wife and love your kids. That's what God's called you to do, right? It's not about money. It's not about money. Money gets us so sidetracked. Money is such a tool of the enemy. Some of you are going to make a lot of money someday, or you're going to inherit a lot of money someday. You know what my recommendation is to you? Look around this room and support those that are going to Thailand and are going to Africa and are going to other places, because you guys are a family. You're a community. And I don't want to make you feel guilty for having money. That's not my goal. I just want you to be aware of your position right now in the world, because with more resources comes more responsibility. If you, in all of the shoes you own in your life, all your shoes at home, all the shoes you have up here, if you can choose from more than 2 pairs of shoes, you're in the top % of the world's wealth. Shoes is a sign of wealth. How many shoes do you guys own? Counting all your shoes. Even your snowboarding boots or your ski boots, right? Your slippers. If you, at home, if you have a change jar, because change is a nuisance, so you clean your pocket out, throw the change in the change jar. That's a sign of incredible wealth in the world, because you got extra. Because change is a nuisance. Isn't that funny? I want to stretch you to say, Lord, what do you want me to do with the resources you've given me? And what's exciting is to see all the opportunities that are out there. The last one is to walk humbly. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. Man, I just say, Lord, what is it you want me to do? Lord, may you break my heart with the things that break your heart. Whatever breaks your heart, Lord, may that break my heart. May I see the world the way you see the world, Lord. May I see my Joshua family the way you see them. May I see my friends the way you see them. May I see the DR the way you see it. May I see the children in the DR site the way you see it. Because you have the privilege of being able to get to know some of these kids from the DR that are very, very poor. Some of them come from very, very disadvantaged homes. And you have the privilege of being able to come alongside them, to give them a hug, to smile, to get to know their name, right? And Jesus says in Matthew 25, when you minister to the least of these in the kingdom, you minister unto me. So in a way, you're going to actually be ministering directly to Jesus when you are ministering to the least. To the least. How many of you are going to the site Hansen, the special needs site? Okay, 1, 2, 3. That's a site that has the least of these. Those kids that even in their society have 0 status. We've had some kids that we have found to come to a special needs site that are hidden in a back room. They never come out. Their parents don't want, they're embarrassed to bring them out. And we have a chance to give them, to help them see joy, to help them see light, to help them play, to love them, and to tell them about Jesus. The special needs site, Hansen, is a special place. But you all will have an opportunity to touch some of these lives. I'm excited for you. I want you to go as an open book, say, Lord, here I am. I'm available. Speak to me. You will get a chance to hear the Lord when you're in the Dominican Republic. You can hear him here. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes being stretched and getting out of our comfort zone makes us even more receptive to hearing from the Lord. The next couple days, we're gonna move on to spiritual warfare tomorrow night. I'm gonna talk first of all about how to pack, how to get ready to go, and lead into spiritual warfare. You'll see, and then Wednesday night, I'm going to talk about things I've learned from one person's life. Go through a little bit of a life history, a story. I'm going to tell you a story on Wednesday night. And Thursday, I'm going to give you some final thoughts before you go about this isn't about you. It's not about you. It's a reminder. You guys know it's not about you, right? You already know that. You hear that all the time. Well, I'm just going to kind of remind you a little bit with some verses and some stories how it's not about you. While I'm here, I'm available. If any of you want to talk about anything with missions or anything about life, then I'm available. All right, let me pray. Lord, thank you for this evening. Thank you for this family that I witnessed this morning doing some body life and some lifting up one another in prayer. Lord, you are a great God. And as these friends respond to your Holy Spirit, they minister to one another in your power, in your name. Thank you for that. Lord, when we contemplate the world, we wonder why we were born where we were born. Why do we come from the richest economy in the history of the world? Lord, what do you want us to do with that? Lord, speak to us. May we have open ears and open eyes to see you on this upcoming trip in maybe a new way. And hopefully we'll see a bigger world because of this trip, and our view of you will even be greater. Lord, thank you for each person here and their willingness to say, yes, I want to do this program this year, and part of that is the DR. I just pray that it's a pivotal time for them, discovering what you have for them next. We give this time to you. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.